For today's video, we are going to be taking a look at another Demacia based control list, this time pairing the region with Shadow Isles. Probably not that much of a shock, right? The most popular control list that I run into on the ladder is Freljord and Shadow Isles paired together. So if I'm going to play Demacia control and I've got two lists, one's probably paired with Freljord, the other is probably paired with Shadow Isles, and that is the case. There's a reason that I really like this list though. I think this list does some things a little bit better than the one I shared yesterday. The one I shared yesterday I think is a bit better equipped to deal with the elusives because of your burst, speed, frostbite effects. This list I think is very good at dealing with spiders for a number of reasons, but specifically because of Withering Wail and because of your ability to kind of contest the board with your own early drops, Hapless Aristocrat, Vile Feast, things like that. So if you're looking for a reason to play one over the other, I would just say it kind of depends on what you're running into on the ladder. If you're seeing a lot of spiders lists, I would lean towards this. More elusives, maybe the deck I shared yesterday. So we're going to go through the list, kind of talk about the inclusions, and then as I always do, we're going to include an example game at the end of the video so you can kind of get a feel for how the deck plays. Right out of the gate, Fleet Feather Tracker. If you haven't watched my other videos, I love this card. It trades up very well. It's cost effective. Challenger is very good at dealing with opposing units that they may be trying to protect with Deny. It is a great way to self-sacrifice your unit to turn on things like Radiant Guardian. And then in this list, it's extra important because we also have Rasa the Sunderer. So this card is just amazing in this list. Hapless Aristocrat is again a stall tool, and it's also an easy sacrifice target, right? Because we are going to be running 3 Glimpse Beyond, and having units that you can target with that is pretty important to keep your card draw flowing. So Hapless Aristocrat is also in for that reason. And then finally, 1 Warden's Prey, simply as just another early 1-drop, but sometimes it can give you some pretty spicy things. And the reality is that no matter what it gives you, you're going to find a use for it. Whether it's the Undying for a source of maybe consistent pressure or easy sacrifices, whether it's a Sentry just to cycle for more card draw, things like that, you're going to find a use. So this is just kind of about card advantage. 1 Black Spear just for early removal, but we're packing a lot of other powerful removal, so we're not going heavy on this. And we also are not looking to be as cost effective with our removal as you are in perhaps like an aggressive deck where you're also developing alongside your removal. So we don't put as much emphasis on this, so this is a one of for right now, because it can be a bit clunky if you don't have a way to, you know, crash one of these units into something and have it die. The Glimpse Beyonds, again, I kind of covered it, but these are to kill an ally, to turn on, again, Guardian, again, Rasa also draws you cards. It's just a quality card. Like if you're playing Shadow Isles, you want Glimpse Beyond in your deck. It's bonkers. All right, single combat. We run a lot of minions that are pretty resilient in this list. So yesterday's list was running this as a 1 of. In this list, it's up to a 2 of. And a lot of that just has to do with the lack of other removal options that are in Shadow Isles. So basically, I know I was kind of stalling there, right? But I was trying to think through the right way to explain this. Basically, your choice when you're running Shadow Isles is you can run Black Spears in this slot, or you can run single combat. When you're running the Freljord list from yesterday, you've got a lot of frostbite effects, and those serve not quite the same purpose, but a similar purpose in stalling, but they do it a bit more effectively. Whereas here, again, your choice is Black Spear or single combat. This is more likely to be available and turned on than this one more often. And this has more upside for us than Black Spear on this list because of cards like Radiant Guardian. So that's why we run kind of this split, if you will, in this slot. 3 Vile Feast. It drains, it hopefully kills something, creates a spiderling that you can use to chump block or sacrifice. This is just a very quality card. It's also a great on-curve answer for the 2-1 elusive if people lead with a duo, and obviously on turn 2 they don't have any way to back that up unless they passed the first turn and they have a Radiant Strike or something really niche. For the most part, you can just answer the Vile Feast, kind of answer it right away. Again, great stall tool. That's why we run 3. Fiora, same exact reason as yesterday's list. This is really just a 3-3 challenger with upside. you're not trying to win with her, don't go all in with trying to win with her. Don't go overboard. Just use her to remove bodies and use her to make your opponent panic and try to get rid of her. That's what she's here for. Again, challenger units in this deck are removal that also turn on our late game bombs like Guardian and Sunderer. Here, we don't have access to the Rhyme Fang like Freljord's list did, so we're just running 3 of the Protege. Again, kind of filling that same slot from yesterday. And then as we get towards the top end, there's a lot more on the top end of this list, but that's just kind of the nature of Shadow Isles. So 1 Garen. This is because we don't have the Brahms and things from yesterday. Garen's okay, right? Radiant Guardian is 9 times out of 10 just way better in this list, but Garen's regen is relevant. It's also a nice, like, clean 5-drop that you can play if you're trying to set up a judgment and you don't have to worry about feeling guilty about triggers. And I do want to mention that there are times when it's proper and correct to play Radiant Guardian and or Rasa without triggering them. Pay attention to the game state. If you need a body to set up a judgment and you're not going to get a chance to get the trigger, play it. If you need to go for a kill and they don't have something with 3 or higher attack and you can swing for lethal because this has fearsome, take the chance, right? So don't sit on these. But Garen, you can play guilt-free. Again, solid body. The regen is very relevant. Also, again, because he's a champion, sometimes people go overboard with trying to kill him, but really he's just in here as a one of. Sometimes it lets you counter pressure if you do get to level him up, but 3, Grasp of the Undying. This is really just because it's a fast speed removal. The Drain is sometimes pretty relevant, but it's also just fast speed removal, and so we're running 3 of them. Radiant Guardian. This is how you stabilize. This is a powerhouse of the deck. It's one of the main reasons that I run Demacia Control between this and Judgment. This is core. So you're trying to turn this on as much as possible, get that lifesteal, get the tough, and just kind of lock down the board. If you're coming from the Elder Scrolls Legends, think of Radiant Guardian as your Hand of Dagoth in many ways. All right, 2 Withering Wail. This is, again, kind of a meta call. And there are times where it might actually be correct to pull these out. But right now, I'm seeing spiders all over the place because of the deck list that the gentleman who hit Master posted. And as such, this is a pretty good card. And sometimes even against Elusive, if you kind of set up your Vile Feasts and you get an opportunity and you can dodge deny, then this can have an impact. But really, this is about shutting down spider decks and other cheap aggressive lists. And it's very effective at doing so. Further in the top end, 3 Rasa. Again, one of my favorite cards in the game. Very powerful when it hits the board. This is where you really start to stabilize. Like if you land a Guardian on 5 that triggered, and then you also can land a Rasa on 7 with his trigger, it's really hard to lose the game at that point. The effects are so powerful between the 2 of them that you can just close things out almost single-handedly. These are fantastic. 2 Vengeance. Sometimes this is in as a one of. I've upped it to 2 recently because there's a lot of self-buff and hand-buff decks that are trying to take your threats outside of traditional removal range, or at least I've been running into the elusive lists that try to do that. So having a backup plan to just say, hey, I don't care how many times you've buffed it, you know, I'm going to blow it up. That's pretty important. 2 Judgment for the same reasons we run it in yesterday's list. This is your sweeper. If it's played on Radiant Guardian, you gain a ton of health. Sometimes you can accidentally win with Judgment and Fiora. It's just amazing against non-Ionia lists because you don't have to worry about deny, and you can really set up some one-sided sweeps. And that's what Control wants to do, right? When you're playing that attrition and tempo game, if you can get the 3-for-1 or the 4-for-1, that is huge. It's instrumental, and Judgment is one of those cards that is definitely capable of doing that. So against non-Ionia decks, it's outstanding, and against Ionia, you just have to be smart. And then finally, your panic button, 2 Ruination. This can sometimes be clunky if you get too far behind because you'll get into a situation where even if you wipe the board, like you have to proactively wipe the board and then they refill, and then they go on to their following turn where they start with an open attack. So in those cases, try to also back it up with some of these fast effect spells. You can't always do that, but just be mindful of that. But yeah, this is just your panic button. And actually, the game that I won that took me over the hump from silver to gold back when it happened was on the back of a Ruination. It was against Noxus spiders, and they had flooded the board, and it was going into what was going to be turn 7. So we were on turn 6. I had my 3 spell mana. My opponent played a Darius and had a full board, and I played Ruination, and it just kind of reset everything, and they were unable to come back from that, essentially. I mean, they didn't concede. They tried to play it out, but there was just nothing they could do. It was basically like a 5-for-1 trade, and I hit their Darius at that point, so GG. That's the list, and as promised, we're going to go play a game on the ladder so you can see the deck in action, and we're going to do that now. Alright, so just based on the champions and regions, it looks like we are pairing into the aforementioned Noxus Shadow Isles spider list, and everything here looks fine. We are on the evens for our attack phase. We'll likely open with a pet that we won't be able to block outright because of the fearsome. Shocker! Sometimes I'm just really good at this game. We still open with Fleet Feather, however, because we want to be able to play this next turn to trigger Challenger so we can take that trade, get that off the board. That's where worst case scenarios start to come in, because they might just play an Elise, and there's nothing we can do about that, but we'll wait and see.
What's that noise?
But overall, this is a pretty decent opening hand against this list. Oh, they're going with a house spider, huh? Alright, we still want to get rid of this. The fearsome is a bit of an issue, and while we do have Fiora next turn, this list traditionally runs that dastardly culling removal spell, so there's a chance we could play Fiora and have it instantly be eaten, so we take this trade, keeps the spider in check, gets rid of the fearsome. And just like that, our hand went from being pretty decent to pretty clunky. Alright, so that's the Elise that we were worried about. But since they played Elise, we can answer with Fiora, who has 3 attack, which again is very relevant against these fearsome units, and that means that unless they have something for 1 that buffs, and they do not, we at least have a blocker here. Now they might just pass because they want to level her up. There's nothing we can do about that. We were 1 mana short of being able to take the single combat trade. But we do pick up Withering Wail, which is very useful. And how do we want to handle this? Well, we want to start by getting rid of some of these spiders anyway. So let's go ahead and take the safe value trade for now. We don't want to play this just yet, because if we make this trade and they have something like Crawling Sensation, we want to be able to catch as many of those spiders as possible. In which case, you can also make the argument perhaps this should have eaten the 2/2. Yep, there is an Elise's Crawling Sensation, and I think we just let this go. We have to make the decision on whether we want to Glimpse Beyond or Withering Wail this turn. I think we're going to wait and wail on their turn. And also, because our hand is so clunky, I think we do want to use one of these now. Depends on what we draw here. It might use a second one. I think we're going to pass, though, and just let the spell mana carry over. Since we plan on using the whale, the spell mana is pretty important.
I salute you!
Alright, interesting. We'd love to develop this, and we would love also to develop this withering whale to shut a lot of this down. But we don't have enough mana to do both this and the whale. And this here is a big boy. So I think our best bet is to either vengeance that, or we could use the repost combat. But either way, it's going to be fast effects. So we're going to pass and then see what they do.
Noxian strength.
So in this particular instance, I feel like we want to take the big guy out.
Your move.
We're going to take a lot of damage as a result. Interesting. Alright, we're just gonna go ahead and draw here. So they caught us with a bit of a surprise. Some of the versions do run Whirling Death, some do not. I think more don't run it than do. But bravo on their part. Definitely set us back. We won't be able to vengeance next turn either, which is our, I think, biggest concern here. But we will be able to vengeance on their turn. But we at least get the damage in still. So we can get a whale off, hopefully. And then go from there. So we'll, if it resolves here, we'll pull 4 units off and heal us for 3. Alright, they're going to draw cards. Not much we can really do about that. We are certainly in a pickle here. Like, make no mistake about it. We're in a pickle. But we're trying to open ourselves up, because if we can just not die, and I know I'm asking a lot there, but if we can just not die next round, we can potentially get this Radiant Guardian up and going. Alright, so now we also have the decision of we can vengeance the Elise, which potentially leaves us at 1, or this puts us at 9 while taking these 2 out, which potentially leaves us at 3. This is technically like the better thing to save for later, though, but we don't really get that opportunity either, so we're gonna go ahead and do this. Now, if they have the +2/+0 to 2 different attacking units, we just lose. They also could win with a Decimate, for example. What we want more than anything is for them to just play every card in their hand. Like, we just want them to flood the board with units here, because it's coming back to our turn, and then we can just Ruination. But they're leaving some units back, so now we have to make a decision. We're gonna start with this just to kind of slow play it. See if they do anything else. They might just pass here. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and try to draw some cards. But also give ourselves the death trigger because we want this Radiant Guardian to land. Because we need the potential health gain. Beautiful. We found the judgment.
Virtue guides me.
Okay. So Darius potentially problematic,
Is the hand of Noxus.
but we don't hate it. We're just gonna let all of our spell mana go here. Now, unless they have something crazy, you should see the exact power of this list when it comes to one-sided board sweeps and stabilizing. I was gonna say, if they're smart, they need to pull this away so I can't put this here so that this... Wow, okay.
I will end this here.
You're just gonna let me do it, huh? Alright. Casually back up to 20 health. We'll give them the emote. They were emote spamming us a little bit there. This game wasn't over. But they're being nice about it now. They gave us the jinx, so. All right, let's see what they got. Spear. Spear's fine. I'm actually pretty happy this turned out the way that it did. You might think that I'm recording a ton of games after recording that deck intro, but no, this is literally the first game. I talk about how I've been running into spiders, I talk about how this list is good, talk about how this and Judgment can just win you games, and then we're gonna do this now, just because they have no cards in hand, so we don't have to worry about any sort of combat tricks, and getting rid of the Elise is a pretty big deal. But I just really like that we got a great example game to showcase the power of the list. Alright, now what I'm about to do might seem a bit like overkill, but we're gonna vengeance this simply because this trades into our angel, and for as long as this is alive, we are in a good spot. I take it back. We're actually going to slow play it. Let's just play the Garen.
For king and country.
Because if this is another Darius, we really don't want to have to then like self-sacrifice something to get that going. Let's just play the Darius and just attack with this. We're already at 20 health. We don't need to gain the health. This is the proper assessment. If they block Garen here, it's no big deal. Yeah. Losing Garen is nothing that we are going to lose sleep over. Might as well get this out of the way because when it comes back to us, that removes potential blockers. And we're at the point where we need to start pushing damage. We have the card advantage, we have the board advantage. So we basically trade spiders. Like they had a spider and now we have a spider. I guess it's not trade spiders. I guess it's steal a spider. We steal their spider. We play control magic for 2 mana. Interesting. So they go ahead and they wax us for 10. This is obviously powerful. Again, not something I see this list traditionally run. I'm not gonna lie. And I think we let this go from here. There was a consideration to be made there about potentially playing a Rasa to set up a counterattack for lethal on the following turn, but I think here instead we just let them do what they're gonna do for now. Alright, so we're gonna vengeance the big one. Now we're gonna lose this, but we're gonna gain health, and then we're just gonna play another one again.
Hope burns on. Justice will be served.
And so at this point, we're just trying to force damage while using these to top ourselves off. Let's do it like this.
Banish the unworthy.
Gets him to half health. But also, we lose a unit, and then we get to make the decision, right? We can use Vile Feast to hit that, or we could Rasa. Oh, we get to finally see Calling Strike, eh? Okay. So we have to assume that Commander here is coming down.
I must end this madness before I lose myself.
It's going to take us to 7.
Let the death
We're going to Rasa.
before us.
Which at least gets rid of the Elise. This again will go back to their hand. Now they can play that unit again, but we've got 2 potential blockers for it when it comes back around. And this unit by itself can't get it done. Now if they have him and a Decimate, no, they're still 1 mana short, so we're fine in that regard.
Enough souls have suffered.
Alright, so we're gonna drain here to make a spider. But also we're just kind of buying time. We don't know what this other card is, so if they attack with just him, then we block with our angel. So if they have a blocker for here with their fearsome unit, and they have a blocker for here, they only push 3 damage. So this is one of those instances where, if you remember right, I said you have to sometimes decide when to play these to not get value.
Virtue guides
And so we don't care about the lifesteal and tough here because we're just trying to create a scenario where they have to have some sort of instant speed removal to win the game, or at least not lose the game. So even if they block those front 2, we still have 8 damage following.
Life is lost, but not my purpose.
This has to block Rasa,
You should have left one.
because otherwise they don't have a unit because of the fearsome. So that's the other reason why we're kind of okay with this, because the lifesteal unit still survives. Okay. So they go up to 7, but then we're going to deal 7, so that's going to be it. So playing this was 100% the difference maker there. And that was a fantastic game. I think a great showcase of what the list can do. And anyway, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching, listening to my rambling. I've been really enjoying these judgment-based control lists, these Demacia lists. I think Radiant Guardian is insane. I think Judgment is a bit underrated, and you know, it's fun. It's flashy. You like one-sided board sweeps where you fully heal. At least I do. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you're new, consider subscribing. If not, just remember, when you're out there playing Runeterra, have fun, good luck, all that jazz, and we'll see you next time.